Ridden by apprentice Chris Williams, the winner returned $8.50 and $2.30. Mr. Ritz paid $2.50 and Cheeky Kingdom $3.20. To Corindai, where Harry Troy and Digger McClellan rode winning doubles. McClellan's completed in race 7, the NBN Class 1 handicap. Able Agent getting the night at 10 even and $3.30, the Cornella $36.60 and the Trifecta $652.70.
Drought is sending many farmers in New South Wales and southern Queensland to the wall.
There are farmers out there who are back to the point where they do not have food, where they do not have petrol for their vehicles, but we never hear about it.
Farmhand was launched to raise money for drought-stricken farmers. The Salvation Army will be involved in the distribution of the money raised. The Salvation Army has discovered that many farmers simply won't ask for help, so instead the Salvos have decided to seek out those in need. The Salvos are working with the Rural Lands Protection Board to determine the 10 areas most affected by drought.
And we will actually be visiting every farm in those particular areas in order to talk to the people, because they, you know, a little bit of pride being what it is, I think until they were falling down you wouldn't know.
By using the Salvation Army network, administrative costs will be cut so the money will end up in the hands of those who need it most. Donations are still being accepted. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Announcing the partnership in Lismore this afternoon, Norco General Manager Alan Hoskins said it offers increased employment opportunities through both local production and distribution activities. The new combine will market in Australia an extensive range of novelty frozen treats under the brand name Norco Topper.
This partnership that we're entering into today will do that. It will bring to our range a range of a lot of very good products.
As well as distributing the tip-top range of ice creams, Norco will also produce some of the new Norco Topper product range in Lismore for both local consumption and export. Mr Hoskins said the billion-dollar Australian ice cream market is dominated by two major players, with Norco Topper now seeking to gain a modest share as a third competitor.
This is a real partnership between Tip Top Ice Cream and Norco, and it's a partnership that is going to bring not only these products but other products through a wide distribution network that we at Norco operate to serve our customers from north of Rockhampton right through to Newcastle.
Norco Topper has also secured exclusive rights to market products in conjunction with the movie The Flintstones and is wasting no time getting through to the young, like here with the help of the kids from Our Lady Help of Christians School this afternoon.
Vincent, who recently made his first grade debut, was dismissed for an alleged dangerous tackle, reducing a depleted reserve grade side to just 12 men in their 22-12 loss to Illawarra. The presence of Vincent, the club's leading try scorer, is imperative in the reserves' push towards another grand final. Officials optimistic about tonight's hearing.
Well, viewing the video, I don't see any problems. I feel he should get off the chart.
Reserve grade clinched the minor premiership against Canterbury 2 weeks ago, but since then have had 2 losses. Injury and suspension throughout the club hampering their build-up to the final series.
Well, I think our preparation's been better last year than this year, but that's up to me to pull their side back together again. I think as good a side as we had in '93.
Apart from the President's Cup players, Finch has 16 who have qualified for the reserve semis, including Tony Butterfield, who may be back earlier than expected after breaking his hand 3 weeks ago. Newcastle will play the winner of this Saturday's preliminary major semi-final between Cronulla and Canterbury, while the Knights play Eastern Suburbs in President's Cup this Sunday.
To cut the railway line at Civic or not, that's the question which has been hotly debated and is now being considered by a state government transport planning study. Newcastle Lord Mayor John McNaughton was reported to have called for the railway line to be cut, but today he was not so definite.
I see that as being a solution to it. The other solution is at-grade crossings.
Councillor John Sutton says the Lord Mayor's call to cut the rail line was at odds with both the Labor Party and Newcastle City Council.
Both those institutions have policies that are firmly in favour of retaining the rail line to Newcastle Station.
The Lord Mayor says the decision is not up to Council anyway.
The state government own the railway. It's their decision. They own it. They can please themselves what they do with it.
Independent Councillor Sutton wants the railway line to be retained to Newcastle. Although a study has shown 3,000 people already use Newcastle Station each day, Councillor Sutton is urging more people to choose rail when travelling. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
A solid return to form for the Paul Perry-trained Pardew Bay. Gunnedah Cup winner Dan Time second and Superior Model third. To Grafton and the Pioneer Open Handicap over 1,500 metres. Fleet Force, ridden by Kim Bell, returned $5.70 and $2. Fun Royale $3.10 and Real Ale $4.70. The Australian Rugby League last night named a train-on squad of 39, made up of players not involved in the final series. One of the bolters was Newcastle halfback Andrew Johns, who today was still stunned at his inclusion.
It's a pretty good reward considering everything that's gone on the last couple of months or so, and I'm still a massive outside. I don't think I've got much chance of getting in, but it's good just to be recognised and to train alongside the blokes who are there.
It caps a magnificent season for the 20-year-old, whose goal at the start of the year was just to play a few games of first grade. Johns will be joined in the train-on squad by brother Matthew, Mark Glanville, Paul Harrigan, Robbie McCormack and Mark Sargent. Glanville was today receiving physio for a knee injury, and after making the squad in 1990, One of the game's most consistent back rowers is hoping for a different outcome.
Well, obviously a few injuries would help if in the sides that are still in the semis, but I guess I've done what I can, and just hopefully the selectors will, name me.
Meantime, Knights reserve grader Shane Vincent was last night cleared of a dangerous tackle charge. In 1936, weighing just 6.5 stone or just over 40 kilos, Peter Simmons rode Red Ray in the Melbourne Cup. It was the first of 13 mounts in the Cup, his last in 1959, his most famous in 1947 aboard Red Fury, which ran third by 2 lengths.
The last 2 furlongs it was a definite chance. And actually, about a furlong and a half from home, I actually got to the front. But the horse couldn't run 2 miles. He could run 1.5 miles, but he couldn't run 2 miles.
Now 80 and after 32 years training in Melbourne, Peter is looking forward rather than reflecting. His big hope, the Lord Ballina 6-year-old Noisy Peer, which will contest tomorrow's Wyong Cup. That was 3 straight for Noisy Peer, which has done wonders under Simmons after some big-name trainers were not so fortunate.
David Hayes had him there for a while, and he was always sore. Then Johnny Marr had him, he had the same trouble, and he's just come good now.
One of the nation's leading hoops, Melbourne's Damien Oliver, will ride Noisy Peer. Oliver believing its chances are as good as his golf swing was at Wyong today. Playing off 20, Oliver definitely snuck under the handicapper's guard today, as he hopes to do tomorrow.
Jockeys, no burglars amongst the jockeys.
First mooted by the trucking industry, today's announcement that the reforms had been given the green light from the government drew widespread support from truck companies.
We agree that the industry has to be pulled back.
There is general agreement on it. This is the way to go, to crack down on the cowboys in the industry.
The plan would see the vehicles of drivers caught exceeding 115 kilometres per hour impounded, cargo and all, for 24 hours. The driver would also be booked. As well as deterring so-called cowboy drivers, the measure is designed to penalise truck operators who set unreasonable deadlines or encourage speeding.
I think it is very fair. It is time that they sort of realised what they're driving and what they're doing.
And that goes for the operators as well?
The whole lot.
You've got to bring them all on a national basis of accreditation so everyone understands the rules. And if they have any infringement, they can lose their licence to operate around Australia.
Transport Minister Bruce Baird today said the government was also considering an accreditation scheme that would put the onus on truck operators to make sure their vehicles were roadworthy. Joanne Shoebridge, NBN News.
Whatever they've got, that special something has kept Jane Torville and Christopher Dean together on ice for the past 2 decades.
We've grown up together. We've gone through our teens and our early 20s and our later 20s and into our 30-somethings, and so we've experienced a lot, and so we tend to think alike.
The former world and Olympic champions are in Australia as part of an international tour. They're presenting a program of breathtaking routines, the product of endless hours spent perfecting their style.
We had 2 months of rehearsal and we spent 8 hours a day on the ice, 6 days a week. So it was pretty intense. But it was a fun time because you sort of see things develop. Have good days and bad days, but when you sort of get towards the end, you can see a picture of what the show is going to be like.
Newcastle's entertainment centre has been transformed into a huge ice rink for the 5 shows that also feature 19 skaters from across the world, all champion performers on the ice.
They've been national champions. Some have competed in world championships and Olympics. There's a world champion out there as well. So they're all talented skaters.
While it may be the last time the duo embarks on such a huge challenge, there's no talk of ending the magic that's become synonymous with Torval and Dean.
The President's Cup side last qualified for the finals in 1992 when they finished 5th. To better that performance, Newcastle must beat an experienced East outfit, which contained 6 players from the side that won the competition last season. At their one meeting this year, Newcastle emerged victorious 28-6 and will go into the match at full strength. Meantime, Newcastle will contest the State League Division 2 netball grand final against Parramatta in Sydney tomorrow night. Newcastle hasn't beaten its opponent this year, but coach Bruce Linke believes an upset is possible if they can reproduce last week's form against Penrith. In rugby union, a grand final position is on offer tomorrow when Wanderers play Singleton, while Maitland face Hamilton on Sunday. And in soccer, Western and Lake Macquarie will play in the first of 4 quarter-finals this weekend tonight. 2 will be played tomorrow, while Azuri play Toronto on Sunday at 2:30. The first quarter was marred by a series of offensive fouls, travelling violations and poor shooting, keeping the score to 22-21 in Adelaide's favour, although Tony Jensen did his best to lift the standard. Down by 4 at half-time, the Falcons' third quarter surge, led by Jensen, opened up an 18-point and possible winning break, but sparked by Robert Rose, the 36ers responded. The margin was reduced to 12 by three-quarter time, and with Adelaide keeping the pressure on at both ends of the court, Newcastle was outscored 25-8 in the final term, dropping the first leg of the infamous Doomsday Double.
Around 3 o'clock this morning, a resident of the Essington Lewis building saw the fire in a ground floor recreation room. Many of the 56 university and TAFE students who live in the hostel had left for the weekend. Those who remained were evacuated.
If it hadn't been picked up when it was, I'd say you don't know what would have happened. So luckily the lady that did find it found it when she did, because everyone else would have slept through it. There just would have been no chance of getting it.
It certainly is a suspicious scene. There's been some damage and vandalism done to one of the areas of the premises.
Inside, tomato sauce had been splashed over walls, the floor and ceiling of a kitchen near where the fire started. Scientific police spent the morning gathering evidence. The blaze took 3/4 of an hour to extinguish, firefighters wearing breathing apparatus because of the thick smoke.
Everything just reeks in my room. There's a lot of my clothes and everything just reek of smoke, and it was pretty thick.
Police will now begin interviewing residents in an effort to piece together this morning's events. The media was barred from attending most of today's meeting, called at short notice after Commissioner Robert Merriman ordered the men back to work. When it was put to a vote, the decision to return to work at 7 o'clock on Monday was almost unanimous.
They're not going back to work because of the threats that the company's put on them. They're not going back with their tail between their legs, although they've lost a lot of money. They're going back purely out of respect of what the Industrial Commission has said to them that they must do.
The company had threatened to shut down Potline 2 if the workers weren't back at the plant by 7 o'clock Monday morning, a move which would have meant the loss of at least 100 jobs according to union officials. Plant manager Barry Goldstiver says the workers have lost 3 weeks' wages or 6% of their annual income. The strike was over an initial 10% claim.
Well, I can't see that it's really achieved anything. It will probably now be a matter for the Industrial Relations Commission to arbitrate the claim, and that option was open to them even before the strike started.
The matter will now go before Commissioner Merriman. However, it is likely to be at least October before the case can be heard and the dispute resolved. Joanne Shoebridge, NBN News.
Or pay further out. Star Dancer and Big Dreams is now getting a gap in the centre past the 200 mark, and Big Dreams sprinted to the lead. Big Dreams hit the front clear of Star Dancer. Skillful Star, Navy Seal wide out is rattling home, but close to home Big Dreams holding them easily at bay. A brilliant win to Big Dreams. Skillful.
The top weight Big Dreams getting the money with Skillful Star and Navy Seal filling the minors. And finally to Newcastle, where one of the features was the open handicap.
Go before finding Florimo. Billy Moore did well. Florimo puts a kick out to the wing, and it's been picked up by Nagus. Swooped upon it. I'm not going to say it this time, but I think he's going to score. Yes, he does. And then across for Craig Wilson. He's over the line. The ball is. He does that, and here's another try for Quip. Here's Walters. Walters is with him, but Croker. He doesn't need Walters. He's in to score himself. His second try.
The 750 workers went back on the job this morning, 24 days after the strike began. The men went out calling for an 8% pay rise on top of a 2% increase. Today, management was still determined to hold fast.
If they thought they were going to bludgeon us into improving an agreed wage package, they've clearly misjudged. We haven't, and we don't propose to.
The aluminium plant has kept running through the dispute with 300 staff employees working 12-hour shifts. Management says production has been maintained, but admits the plant's reputation has been affected by the strike.
We've lost sales. Whether we've lost customers remains to be seen. We would hope that the customers come back and buy from us, but we won't know that for a while.
While the dispute is over for the time being, it's far from settled. Both parties will meet before the Industrial Relations Commission next month to try and sort out a wages package. The union says productivity increases should mean more pay. The company argues an enterprise agreement has been broken. The cost to the company has not been determined. The cost to workers, 3 weeks in wages. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
According to economists, gradual changes in our society during the past 3 decades have dramatically influenced shopping habits. In rural areas, there's been a steady decline of businesses in many main streets, once the heart of economic activity. Delegates from 42 towns across the state are meeting in the Hunter to find out how a special government support program known as Main Street can help improve things.
Identify the opportunities that the town has in dealing with perhaps economic opportunities, attracting new business to town, but above all, for making that a nicer place for the community itself.
The scheme began 5 years ago but has recently come under the portfolio of the state's Small Business and Regional Development Minister, Ray Chappell. Today, Mr Chappell announced an extension of the Main Street program with more money available for small town and village development.
It's very much about saying the town, if it's going to attract business, has to be looking good and be functioning well.
Addressing issues such as streetscape, financial advice and marketing concepts, the scheme is urging small town businesses to identify areas of opportunity.
And by putting that vitality back in those towns, hopefully there will be more business generated and people will stay in those country towns, irrespective of the very harsh economic circumstances that they're all going through with the rural economy the way it is. But it's about adding that vitality.
This naturally occurring spring has its source 60 metres below in an underground river, where once the water flowed freely, now it's being channelled off to quench an insatiable thirst.
There's no question at this stage that people have a growing concern for water quality.
The public's demand for mountain spring water led Central Coast resident James Lang Peach to market an Aussie alternative.
There's a huge supply from France, and that probably says it all. We also got a lot of water from Indonesia, of all places. Nothing wrong with Indonesia, but it's surprising that you would import water from Indonesia.
Somersby spring water is filtered through layers of sandstone. Then, instead of treating it with chlorine, just prior to bottling, a process called ozonation is used.
It's to guarantee health safety.
The enterprising Lang Peaches hope their backyard bounty will be a new type of liquid gold. Jane Anderson, NBN News. Midsummer Night's Dream is the story of misplaced love.
The storyline is about a group of lovers who are basically caught out in the forest, and they run into fairies and a whole lot of supernatural beings, and they get special juice squeezed into their eyes, and they fall in love with people that they're not supposed to.
Director Kingston Anderson says the play also questions the definition of love.
It questions, how strong is love really, and whether it's something that is as tangible as a potion, or is it something deeper?
This is Shakespeare's most often performed play, and the Hunter Valley Theatre Company brings to it its own interpretation.
Fast, furious and funny, in 3 words. We've really gone at it to present it in a really entertaining way, but also not to lose the drama.
The play opens tomorrow night at the Civic Playhouse and runs for a month. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Fire units were called to the scene soon after 9 last night. The AMP Control Administration block at Tomago was well alight. Firefighters unable to save the building and its valuable contents.
The building is completely gutted. We've lost all of our documentation and our computer systems. estimate's probably about $1 million worth of damage.
One difficulty for firefighters, it appeared the blaze had taken hold on two separate fronts. Today, investigators scoured the remains. Suspicions are high that the fire was deliberately lit.
It's always a possibility, especially when the fires are, not in related positions. Yeah. So you've got to assume that until you can prove otherwise.
While the building was insured, the company is now facing the task of replacing the administration block and the reams of information lost to the flames. Peter Ryan, NBN News. With no sign of a change in the weather, action is needed now to fight the drought. Today, mayors of 12 hunter councils met in Singleton for a crisis meeting to work out a plan of attack.
Predictions from the National Climate Centre are for very little chance of any drought-breaking rains for 3 months and possibly not for up to 6 months. And we're looking at that. If that happens, that's going to be catastrophic for our area.
The group called for a better deal for our farmers, the relaxation of means testing for social security entitlements, improved subsidy allowances for transporting fodder and stock, and the inclusion of drought in the national disaster table.
And you've got people dramatically affected in this disaster, and to have it outside our disaster planning is absurd, in fact.
But while the council's proposals are seen as a positive step, in essence it's just talk, as local government has no direct political power to push through these changes. All councils can do is lobby the state and federal governments for action. Meanwhile, the drought is spreading from the farms into the towns and cities. Already some businesses are laying off staff as farmers have less money to spend outside the farm gate. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The '89 quake killed 13 people and cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Less than a month ago, another tremor hit the region, centred on the Cessnock area. No lives were lost, but insurance claims have already exceeded $20 million. But a visiting earthquake expert says the region shouldn't become complacent, as it's more likely another quake will strike sooner than later.
They are clustered in time, so you're more likely to have a short period between earthquakes than a long period. And it's a little bit like traffic driving down a highway. You have the cars all clustered together in one space and then a big space in between the clusters, and that's around about how earthquakes happen.
Kevin McHugh is the head of the Australian Geological and Seismographic Organisation in Canberra. He told a business lunch that although nobody can predict earthquakes, we can prepare for them. A new code is about to be introduced to ensure all new homes meet Australian earthquake safety standards. But Mr McHugh says all homes should be reinforced to prevent lives being lost in future earthquakes.
Well, I think there would have been hopefully no collapses. That's the goal of the code, that nothing will collapse. Now, the code is not designed to minimise damage, it's just designed to prevent collapse. And after all, if nothing had collapsed, there would be no deaths, and that's the goal of the code.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.